Una, yung tungkol sa concerns ng OFWs, lalo na dun sa Lebanon, saka yung ibang kahit sa Gaza Strip. We invited Yusek to Felibay ng DMV. Nandito rin si Cabsec at spokesman ng Bangsamoro Autonomous Region ng Muslim Mindanao. Bibigyan na tayo ng update on preparations ng BARM sa 2025 elections, the parliamentary elections, at iba pang activities aimed at ensuring yung peaceful, honest, and orderly elections sa BARM, which is the first political exercise in BARM after decades of armed conflict. We're still waiting for Undersecretary Felibay. Nandito na si BARM Cabsec spokesperson. Muhammad Hassan Asmin Pendatu para bigyan tayo ng overview ng ginagawa nila sa BARM at present.
Ano pala electric pa sa baba?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Isang maganda at mapayapang umaga po sa ating lahat. At the onset, kami po ay nagpapasalamat sa ating po mga kaibigan sa media for giving us this opportunity na makadala ho ulit dito sa ating pong Saturday News Forum. It's been 3 months mula ho nung huli ho kaming pumunta dito. And this month is the National Peace Consciousness Month. Kaya ho, we've been doing this media rounds in Metro Manila to primarily discuss kung ano po yung mga naging preparations namin for the upcoming first parliamentary elections in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. But before we do that, we'd just like to take this opportunity also to share to you kung ano na po yung ika nga ay mga napagtagumpayan ng Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. And we'd like to give emphasis on this considering that at least in the Philippines, pag sinabi ho nating peace process, pag sinabi ho nating peace, ay BARM po yung tinitignan, not only in the country but in the rest of the world. Nung huli ho kaming bumisita, we've reported that we have significantly reduced the poverty incidence in the region. At as of the latest PSA account, we're happy to report that in 2018, the poverty incidence in the BARM or the then ARMM was at 52.3%. Yung huli pong data na inilabas ko ng PSA a couple of weeks ago ay we recorded poverty incidence down to 23.2%. So, yun po yung pinakamalaking pagbaba ng poverty incidence from 2018 to 2023. And we are proud to say that for the first time in the long history of the autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao and in the BARM, for the first time po, hindi na po BARM yung pinakamahirap na rehiyon sa buong Pilipinas. But it has to be said that the 23.2% is still a very significant number. And it speaks a lot about the development challenges that we need to hurdle in the coming days. So, ang challenge po sa amin ngayon is how do we sustain yung momentum ho ng pagbaba ng poverty incidence at ilan pa pong mga developmental wins that we've recorded since the inception of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. And part and parcel to that, to our effort to sustain yung ating pong mga napagtagumpayan na is yung pong pagkandak ng first ever first parliamentary elections in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Ang aim ho namin is that we will be able to conduct an honest, peaceful, and credible election kung saan mataas po yung voters turnout at ito po ay tinitignan ho natin na importante para ho doon sa even sa post-election ika nga na reconciliation ay mas magiging madali. So yun po yung ginagawa namin for the past couple of weeks leading up to the first parliamentary elections. kaliwat kanan po yung ating po mga information education campaign at yung pong ating mga gagawing mga micro summits. This has been done and we will do it in partnership with various civil society organization at malaki din ho yung ating pasasalamat sa COMELEC for their support sa Bangsamoro Autonomous Region ni Muslim Mindanao. So yun po yung isa sa mga dahilan kung bakit po kami nandito ngayon is to share to you kung ano po yung pwede po nating mapag-usapan patungkol ho doon sa ating po mga ginagawang preparations for the first parliamentary elections in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, and also to shed light na rin ho siguro doon sa mga ilang pang mga issue concerning the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. So maraming salamat po Sir Butch and Sir Ariel and the rest of our friends here in the media for giving us this opportunity, and we look forward to your questions and clarifications po. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum.
Apo, yun po bang paghahanda sa eleksyon kasama sa inihahanda yung sulu?
Kamakailan ho ay nagkaroon ng Supreme Court decision. Binalangkas ho yung 3 kaso challenging the constitutionality of the 11054 o yung pong Bangsamoro Organic Law. On one hand, we welcome the development that yung issue of constitutionality ay sinagot ho ng COMELEC, ng Supreme Court rather. Essentially saying na yung pagkakaroon ho ng autonomous government in Muslim Mindanao ay constitutional, yung pagkakaroon po ng parliamentary form of government is constitutional, yung manner of electing the chief minister is constitutional, among others. But we are very saddened and concerned na kalakip ho dun sa Supreme Court decision ay yung decision din ho ng Korte Suprema essentially saying na yung pagsama ho sa SULU in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao ay hindi po proper. Ito po ay born out of the plebiscite result noong 2019 kung saan 54% of the province voted for no at 46% lamang po yung bumoto ng yes. That time ho kasi ang reckoning is that the ARM will vote as one. So in totality, overwhelming ho yung boto ng ARM sa yes. Kaso nga lang po in the province, provincial level, mas nanaig ho yung no. So after 5 years, the Supreme Court released an issue an decision saying that the SULU should be excluded or it's not part of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. So medyo mabigat at naging malawak po yung implication po nito in the part of the bar.
I think nakita ko si Yusek, si Ma'am mula sa Department of Migrant Workers. Ma'am, join us here sa unahan. Tanong pa rin po dito sa BARMM, anong implications ng ruling na yung SULU ay as of now hindi kasama ng BARMM? Of course, ang isa po sa magiging contentious issue dyan, may block grant yung ARMM, meaning may 50 billion pesos na grant ang national government taon-taon. So dahil nabawasan ng teritoryo ng ARMM, seemingly nabawasan dahil sa pagkakaalis ng SULU, anong epekto nito?
Sige po, ating pong himay-himay yung implication ng Supreme Court decision. First, on the operations of the government ho, meron ho tayong mga provincial employees in the province of Sulu. Ito po yung mga empleyado, mga officials ho, ng ating po mga ministries and offices in the BARM. Ang affected ho nung Supreme Court decision ay nasa 5,732 employees. Kasama ho dyan yung teachers, non-teaching personnel, doctors, health. Kasi ho yung pasahod ho nila ay nanggagaling ho direkta from the regional government. So ito po alone, we're looking at 3.4 billion pesos already. Labas pa po dyan yung pong mga projects, programs na intended for the province of Sulu for 2024 na sa ngayon ho ay apektado ng Supreme Court decision. But for humanitarian consideration, eto tayo po ay nagagalak na a few days ago ay naglabas rin ho ng statement yung DBM that we can still continue to pay yung salaries po ng ating mga empleyado dahil budgeted naman po yan for 2024 in the Bangsamoro Parliament and in the Bangsamoro government. So at least from this point until December of 2024 ay continue pa rin ho yung government services, continue pa rin ho despite of the Supreme Court decision. Ang medyo challenging ngayon is yung pong 2025 of January onwards. Dahil hindi pa po ganun ka-clear sa ngayon, although meron na po mga pag-uusap between the different levels of government. Sa aming pong budgeting, gaya po nung sa Kongreso, ang aming pong Bangsamoro Parliament ang mag-a-approve. No? At yung pong Ministry of Finance, Budget and Management po namin, they were supposed to submit already yung budget proposal ng government of the day. Kaso nga lang, because of the Supreme Court decision, kinailangan din po namin i-revise yung proposal, tanggalin essentially yung mga supposedly for Sulu, but it will take few days or ano lang beyond the supposed original deadline. When it comes to the election, meron ho kaming 7 na parliamentary districts sa province of Sulu. So ngayon, dahil hindi na ho kasama yung Sulu sa BARMM, meron pong 7 parliamentary districts na hanging pa ho sa ngayon. So ilan ho yan dun sa mga pinag-uusapan ngayon in the regional government at meron na rin pong mga options that we are exploring, but ultimately we will look forward na magkaroon ho ng despite of this we continue with the first parliamentary elections next year.
Ano yung security situation ngayon sa bar? Totally na ano na ba ang Muslim insurgency?
Yung security situation ho in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, meron ho tayong significant improvements. It has been relatively better peace and security situation. Yung pong violent, yung pong vertical conflict, meaning yung revolutionary groups versus our security forces, essentially addressed by the peace process. Meron lang ho tayong mga horizontal conflicts pa. Ito po yung mga rido or clan wars at ilan pa pong mga krimen na nangyayari ho sa BARM. But in terms of the overall peace and security situation, malaki na ho yung improvement. In fact, because of our better peace and security situation, nakakapag-invite na ho tayo ng investments in the region. Last year, we were able to record 3.4 billion pesos worth of investment that translated into around 1,900 job opportunities. This year alone, hindi pa po tapos yung 2024, but we are already at 4 billion pesos. At ang pinakahuli hong investment na nirecord ho natin is yung meron pong magtatayo ng upscale na resort in Tawi-Tawi. It's a high-end resort na ika nga ay malaking boost doon sa aming pong tourism. But this is a mixture of all the factors. And pinakamalaki ho dyan is yung better peace and security situation in the region. But we have to be candid also that as per experience, kapag ho election, meron pong mga areas kung saan nagkakaroon ho may emerging conflict, no, violence. So yun po yung tinututukan natin as part of our preparations for the first parliamentary elections next year.
Wala nang threat from ISIS-linked groups.
Meron pa pong mga small groups, no? Yung sa Dawla Islamiyah o yung sa BIFF at yung iba pa pong grupo na affiliated or they expressing ika nga yung support to that movement. But malaki na rin po yung mga napagtagumpayan ng ating pong Armed Forces of the Philippines. I think 3 or 4 months ago, yung isa pong leader ng isang grupo ay na-neutralize ho ng Armed Forces of the Philippines. So, continuing ho yung effort ng security forces dito at malaking bagay din ho yung naging contribution, for example, ng peace process to essentially enable yung mga ganito pong klaseng significant or small wins so far as addressing po yung mga resistance from those groups.
Bakit po yung Sulu umayaw sa BARMM? At anong epekto na sa security? Mas lalo bang naging matahimik ngayon ang BARMM that the rival tribe from Sulu is wala na dun sa kanilang ibang tribo naman ng majority sa BARMM?
Unang-una po, yung Sulu is very important in the BARM. We cannot speak about the Bangsamoro identity, the Bangsamoro struggle, or the Bangsamoro narrative without starting in Sulu. So, ganun ho ka-importante at kaya ho ganun ho kabigat on our part yung pong pagkawala ng Sulu. Yung decision or perhaps yung naging resulta ho ng plebiscite ng 2019, iba ho kasi yung context that time. So that time, we were coming off an autonomous region in Muslim Mindanao, and that we were doing the campaign with the promise that BARM would be better. Right? The BARM is a better option. BARM is, for all intents and purposes, better than the ARMM. Siguro ho, that time, they were not that sold of the idea. Meron pong mga concerns, meron pong mga hugot, perhaps from the previous experience, na nag-reflect po doon sa naging resulta ng plebiscite result. But several years have passed at marami na rin pong mga nagbago. Even yung pagbabaho ng poverty incidents is also reflected in Sulu. In 2018, the poverty incidence in the province was at 74%. As of the last data from PAC, it's down to 13 to 14%. So, sana ho yung momentum ho na yun, we continue despite of this. And we're not closing the possibility ho, sir, that meron pa po tayong options and meron pa po tayong, we linger in that hope that at the end of the day ay ma-preserve pa rin po natin kung ano po yung nakalagay sa peace agreement, sa comprehensive agreement on the Bangsamoro, that Sulu is part and parcel of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao.
Siguro, we'll go back to that to this issue later. At this point, we'd like to call on Yusek Felibay ng Department of Migrant Workers. Ano po ang efforts ng department kaya para tulungan yung mga OFW sa Lebanon and other areas?
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Ang Department of Migrant Workers po, ganun din ang aming attached agency na OWA, yung Overseas Workers Welfare Administration. We have an office. We are represented overseas in Beirut. At meron po tayong Migrant Workers Office. And currently, kasama po tayo sa contingency plan ng Philippine Embassy in Beirut. We abide and we observe the one country team approach, and we are under the supervision of the ambassador in this case. Dito po sa contingency plan, currently, ang Lebanon ay alert level 3. Ibig pong sabihin yan ay may voluntary repatriation. So, dito po sa kasalukuyang sinasagawa ngayon, meron po tayong mga Filipinos who have already been repatriated as early as October 28. Kung matatandaan nyo po, nagkaroon po ng kaguluhan which started October 7, the Israel-Hamas conflict. And with that, nagkaroon din po tayo ng voluntary repatriation which started October 28. And hanggang sa kasalukuyan po, the last repatriation that we had for our Filipino workers or for the Filipinos in Lebanon was last September 19. Supposedly, magkakaroon po dapat tayo ng repatriation September. Dapat po ay may dumating tayong mga kababayan noong September 26. Subalit, nagkaroon po ng suspension of flights from Lebanon. So yung darating po nating mga kababayan na 15 OFWs ay nasuspend muna po yung kanilang biyahe. Subalit, meron po kaming huling kaganapan na receive from our Migrant Workers Office that the repatriation will be rescheduled or has been reset for October 2. So, darating po yung mga kababayan natin, barring unforeseen circumstances, October 3. Yung hindi po nakaalis nung September 26, makakarating po sila ngayon sa atin ng October 3. Dire-diretso po yung voluntary repatriation. Again, this is a call for all Filipinos, not only OFWs, but for all Filipinos in Lebanon to heed the call of government for voluntary repatriation. Dahil alam naman nating lahat, we are all aware na medyo po nagkakaroon doon ng mga skirmishes, there's tension, at meron pong mga bombings and explosions. Kaya po, hinihikayat natin, huwag na po nating hintayin na mas lalong lumala yung situation. And ang ating pong Migrant Workers Office, sa pamumuno din po ng Embahada, meron po tayong mga lines or mobile, if I may read it to you, yun pong, meron po tayong, masama po sa panawagan ng Embahada, meron pong numbers. If I may read it po, ang Philippine Embassy in Beirut Assistance Line is +961-708-58086. Ito po ay para sa mga overseas Filipinos, dependents, and with permanent resident status. Ngayon po, yung Migrant Workers Office, ito po yung nangangalaga ng ating mga overseas Filipinos sa Beirut or sa Lebanon, documented or undocumented. So, ang ating pong linya ay +961-7911-0729. Paano naman po yung mga kamag-anak na nandito na nagkakaroon ng agam-agam or ninenervyos bakit kung sakaling baka may nangyayari na sa kanilang mahal sa buhay? Meron po tayong mga Philippine hotline numbers. Mobile number po natin ay 63-919-067-3975. Gayon din po yung 1348. Ito po yung sa aming ORCC and OWA Command Center. And then, meron din po tayong mga hotline numbers. I can share it with, may 4 po yung hotline numbers namin sa DMW. I can share it later on with the organizer of the forum. Ang akin lang po masasabi, lahat po ay ginagawa ng pamahalaan ng sa tulong ng ating, we are in active coordination with the Department of Foreign Affairs. Sila po ang lead agency or lead government agency when it comes to situations like this. At kami po ay kaagapay ng DFA, ang DMW ay kaagapay ng DFA sa pagtulong sa ating mga overseas Filipino workers and their dependents para sila po ay manatili sa maayos na kalagayan while still overseas and makauwi po sana ng matiwasay dito sa ating bansa.
Ma'am, more or less 11,000 ang Filipinos na nasa Lebanon.
Yes.
Hindi ho ba nakalulungkot na 11 lang yung uuwi sa batch na ito? Hindi ho kaya talagang ayaw ng mga Pilipinong umuwi?
Okay, sir. Ang population po ng Filipino sa Lebanon ay 11,000. It's more than 11,000. Yun pong nagparehistro para sa voluntary repatriation program ay about 1,100. Ano po to? It's an ongoing registration. Nasabi ko nga po sa inyo, nagsimula na po kami nung pang last year. At the outset of hostilities, nagsimula na po tayong magtawag or mag-announce ng call for repatriation. Ang na-repatriate na po, I'm speaking for the overseas Filipino workers data, 430 mula po noong October 28 hanggang September 19. But ang halos mahigit 500 na po ang nakauwi, kasama na po yung mga overseas Filipinos, including their dependents. May mga anak po or mga minor children na kasama, yung iba po nating umuwi. Ngayon po, masasabing dun bakit at sa nagparehistro na 1,100 plus, bakit yan lamang ang umuwi? Ito po ay voluntary repatriation. So, ginagalang po natin yung kahilingan o yung desisyon nung nagparehistro. Meron po kaming mga information at sila po ay nagsulat or tumawag, nagparehistro, subalit mamaya ay nagsabing binabawi ko na po yung registration ko or I am not pursuing with what I have signified before your office. So, iniintindi po natin yung sitwasyon na yon, lalo na po sila po ay napamahal na rin sa bansang Lebanon, napamahal na sa kanilang employer. Most of our workers in Lebanon are in the domestic work. So, ano po yan, nagkaroon po sila din ng parang samahan sa kanilang mga employer na, banding, parang naisip nila na parang hindi ko yata magawang iwanan ang aking employer. Kasama na rin po yung sitwasyon na nag-iisip sila ng kanilang kabuhayan. This is a regular employment and the like. Ngayon po, yung mga sa 430 na overseas Filipino workers, sila po ay nagkusa at sila ay nakauwi na. Ano po ba yung naibigay natin? Sa kasalukuyan po, yung mga umuuwi, ito po ay joint forces with the OWA. Yun pong mga umuwi ay nabigyan natin po ng financial assistance. At the same time, meron po tayo, this is a whole of government approach at ayan po ay sa kautusan din ng ating mahal na presidente. Kasama po namin ang Department of Health kasi may dumarating po, syempre may karamdaman o may hindi maganda sa kanyang kalusugan. So we have the Department of Health at the airport receiving them also. Yun pong Department of Social Worker, Social Welfare and Development. At the same time, kasama din po namin ang TESDA. And of course, kasama po sa pagtulong natin dyan yung iba't ibang organizations din na kagaya po nung sa Red Cross and at the same time, of course, the NAIA Management and the Bureau of Immigration to facilitate their arrival.
Out of that 11,000, ilan dito yung may pag-ibig doon? I mean, may pamilya na. Nagkaasawa na ng Lebanese.
Okay. I don't have
Eskwela, ang napangasawa.
Okay po. I don't have the exact number with me right now, but sabi po natin, marami na din po yung nakapag-asawa at naging permanent residents. Currently po, meron tayong 3 shelter. Currently, 2 po yung shelter natin at meron pa tayong isang kinukuhang shelter. Meron na pong 15 na nandun sa isang shelter, na additional shelter na kinuha natin sa Lebanon. At dun po sa talaan namin, dun sa 15, yun pong 14 ay families. So, permanent residents and spouses. Isa lang po doon sa talaan namin. Dun sa second shelter, ang Filipino worker. So, lahat po yan ay pamilya. Meron po kaming registration at nakita po namin na sila ay pamilya.
So at this point, ang situation sa Lebanon is level 3, you were saying?
Yes, sir. It's alert level 3.
Ano yung possibility ng all-out war between Israel and Lebanon?
Sir,
Any
ang question po ba ay itataas ba ito sa alert level 4? Yan po ay nasa assessment ng ating DFA. Hindi po sa amin sa Department of Migrant Workers. So kung ang sasabihin po ng DFA, of course, through the recommendation din po or sa assessment ng ating embahada, ay yan ay kailangang itaas sa alert level 4 or mandatory evacuation, then kami po sa DMW ay ready to support and assist all Filipinos who would undergo or who would opt for mandatory evacuation. Ngayon po, just to be very clear, it's alert level 3. So it's voluntary repatriation.
So level 4 is mandatory.
Alert level 4 po is mandatory evacuation.
Kaya ba ng gobyerno uwiin yung 11,000?
Yan naman po ay, yun pong nagnanais na makauwi ay magagawan po yan talaga ng paraan. At yan po ay magagawa ng ating pamahalaan. Nangyari na po yan sa ibang mga situations na and then in other areas or other jurisdictions, nagtutulong-tulong naman po ang host country, ang Philippine government, and then meron din po tumutulong na mga international organizations. Nangyari na po yan nung araw.
Ma'am, paano po niyo kukumbinsihin? Minsan nakakainis, minsan frustrating, minsan matatawa ka na lang. pag pinapauwi, sinasabihin yung mga Pilipinang, hindi lang sa Lebanon, kahit sa ibang lugar na may kaguluhan, ang sagot nila, dito ang kalaban namin isang bomba lang eh. Sa Pilipinas, ang kalaban namin altanghap. Almusal, tanghalian, hapunan, wala kaming kakainin. Paano nyo kukumbinsihin? Primarily, yun ang rason eh, kung ba't tayo umuwi.
Kagaya po na itong taon na ito, yung pong mga umuwi, ay meron pong, upon their arrival, meron po yung cash assistance, meron pong 75,000 pesos from the DMW, and then 75,000 pesos from the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration. So, yan po ay maaaring panimula sa kung anumang negosyo ang kanilang maibigay. At the same time, meron din po tayong assistance provided by the different offices. Nabanggit ko po kanina yung kasama po namin sa whole of government approach, ang TESDA. Ang TESDA po ay nagbibigay ng training vouchers para po, of course, hindi ka pa naman magte-training pagdating mo, but they have to settle themselves first. Oo, maaari pong sila ay sumangguni sa Department of Health, o kaya po sa ating DSWD for their psychosocial counseling and other intervention measures. At pagkatapos po nun ay makakatulong po yung naibigay ng pamahalaan para po sila ay makapagsimula. Well, it is not a very big amount, but it is something wherein they could start. At ganun din po yung meron po tayong sa DMW na National Reintegration Center for OFWs. At ito po ay nakikipag-ugnayan sa mga Filipino workers na bumalik. Kagaya po nung galing sa Lebanon, meron na po tayong data, meron na po tayong mga nai-record na nakapag-avail ng programa. Ganon din po ang OWA, meron po tayong mga programa sa OWA na makakatulong dun sa mga returning Filipino workers.
Ang Pilipino naman sa Lebanon, hindi naman sila target ng factions, ng armed faction sa Lebanon.
Masasabi po natin hindi. Subalit kasi siyempre po pag may isang area na halimbawa po nahagip ng bomba or nahagip ng kung anumang explosion dyan, hindi po natin masasabi. Kaya every time pong may nalaman tayo o nabalitaan na explosion, bago po yan lumabas sa media, nare-report na po sa atin ng ating Migrant Workers Office na walang Pilipinong affected kasi po alam din nila kung nasaan yung mga Filipino workers. So, yun pong nagkaroon ng pager and walkie-talkie explosions. Marami pong naapektuhan at salamat po sa ating Panginoon, wala pong naapektuhan sa mga Filipinos natin, whether they are Filipino workers or they are permanent spouses or immigrants.
So yun lang ang problema mo ng bomba, to whom it may concern. May tanong yung mga kasama natin sa media, just raise your hands or raise your voice. Habang nagko-formulate sila ng tanong, ma'am, yung bang BARMM kasama na nyo sa planning sa repatriation? As of now, ang may understanding, malaking parte ng bilang ng 11,000 yan sa Lebanon, ang domicile ay doon sa kanilang lugar, sa BARMM.
So yun pong mga taga BARMM ay yung sa BARM na nandun sa abroad, sila po ba ay covered ng ating assistance or repatriation? Yes, sir. Any Filipino po.
Yes, ang tinatanong ko po, na konsultan niyo po ba sila sa BRMM kasi perhaps meron silang kultura na as a non-Muslim, baka hindi natin nauunawaan.
Okay. Ang DMW naman po ay bukas sa lahat ng Pilipino kung siya man ay may ibang ideology or may kultura o may ibang paniniwala. Ano naman po yan? Bukas po ang DMW. If I can remember it correctly, parang nagkaroon na po ng mga meetings ang aming DMW officers with BARM. Marami po yung coordination mechanisms that we have already implemented.
Siguro po bilang dagdag, we have existing communication lines and coordination with SecHads Kakdak. He's also very active dun po sa ating mechanism na tinatawag nating Intergovernmental Relations Body. Active pong pa-participate si Secretary ho doon. At meron na ho silang established na coordination efforts with our Ministry of Labor and Employment. So we rest assured na yung pong mga specific concerns ho ng ating pong mga migrant workers from the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. And I know, I don't have the exact number, but a substantial part of the 11,000 ay most likely ho galing sa BARM.
Ma'am, I remember decade ago ba? Yung malakihan din repatriation ng
Yes.
IOM, International
Yes.
Organization for Migration, 8,000 ang kanilang repatriate in 3 weeks. Lebanon din yun, ano po?
Opo. Natatandaan ko po niyan dahil ang transit po nila noon ay sa Doha, Qatar at matagal po ang layover and fortunately at that time I was assigned in Doha. So isa po ako sa sumasalubong at nag-aasikaso sa kanila during the layover ng ating mga Filipino workers then from Lebanon. So ano naman po, sabi ko nga po sa inyong at this time, we are still in alert level 3. So it's a voluntary repatriation situation or the alert level is still at voluntary repatriation mode. Assuming it gets into a mandatory evacuation, so ang DFA po at ang DMW ay makikipag-ugnayan naman po kung kinakailangan natin, lahat po ng tulong na kailangan na maibibigay sa atin or ma-extend sa atin, ay yan naman po ay susundin or we will get in touch with the appropriate government agencies, the appropriate international organizations. Lahat po ng tulong na maaari nating matanggap, hindi po tayo tatanggi. In fact, kasama din po natin dyan sa aming mga meetings when it comes to whole of government approach, yung Department of National Defense, the Office of Civil Defense, nakakipagtulungan din po yan sa amin. So, kung kailan po yung mga pangangailangan at dumating na po tayo sa sitwasyon na at sana po ay hindi tayo mapunta sa ganung sitwasyon na karoon tayo ng mandatory evacuation, then the Philippine government, agencies, and all other international organizations will really join arms and will help each other.
How about yung situation sa Gaza? Meron ba mga ano doon?
Sa akin pong pagkakaalam ay wala po tayong OFW sa Gaza. Ang huli pong umuwi noon sa Gaza ay 2 OFW lamang doon sa recent repatriation. So, maaari po nga sa Department of Foreign Affairs, kasi some of these Filipinos may be permanent residents or spouses. So, maaari pong meron pong naiwan pa sa Gaza at the DFA will be in a better position to answer that. Dun sa OFWs po, sa aming pong pagkakaalam, yung huling 2 Pilipino na OFWs ay nakauwi na po.
Yung sa ano, Cambodia, Myanmar border na may scam hubs. May mga OFWs daw doon. Hindi confirm na.
Myanmar?
Yan, yung border na
Okay. Apo, yun pong mga na-scam. Sa human trafficking. Ongoing naman po ang mga investigation dyan at ongoing din po yung repatriation. Again, the lead agency on that matter po is the Department of Foreign Affairs. Wala po kaming opisina. We are not represented. We don't have offices in these areas, Myanmar and Laos and Cambodia. Subalit, kami po ay nakikipagtulungan. Pag dumarating na po yung ating mga Filipinos who were victims of scam or other fraudulent activities, ay sila po ay ina-assistihan ng ating opisina. We are at the airport, we provide them assistance. Kasama po dyan kami sa Interagency Committee Against Trafficking. And at the same time, nagbibigay po tayo ng financial assistance sa kanila. Yung pong mga nakabalik.
Yung pong mga seafarers, ma'am, ano na latest? yung nasa Middle East na seafarers, meron pa bang hawak?
Yun pong isang vessel ay still held hostage. And we have 17 Filipino seafarers on board. Ang ano po dyan ay kausap po natin lagi ang pamilya. In fact, just yesterday, we had a Zoom meeting with all the members with the next of kin, yun pong mga misis, yung mga anak o yung magulang ng 17 Filipinos on board. They are in constant communication. May regular calls po. Pinapayagan po nung mga ng hostage or those who held them captive, yung mga seafarer na makipag-ugnayan sa kanilang pamilya. Of course, hindi naman po matagal na pag-uusap, pero may regular communication po. At yan po ay naire-report sa atin. Pinapayagan daw po silang gumamit ng telepono. At yan po ay naire-report sa atin ng ating mga yung mga kababayan natin na naiwan yung mga pamilya po dito, na i-report po yan sa atin. So patuloy naman po ang efforts being exerted by the Philippine government on how to accordingly or appropriately address the matter. So yun po yung ating inaantabayanan din po namin yung mga nangyayari sapagkat wala po tayong representation or we cannot negotiate because hindi naman po recognize yung Houthi movement. So, kaya po in this matter, we leave it to the Department of Foreign Affairs.
Hindi ka nasa Iran daw yung 17?
Sila po ay nasa vessel.
Oo, pero nasa Iran territory?
Somewhere po in the Red Sea area. I don't have the exact coordinates, sir, but they're still on board the vessel.
Matagal na yun. Ilang buwan na?
Since last November po. Opo.
Ma'am, isa po sa lugar na maraming mga Pilipino manggagawa, ay lugar na hindi masyadong pwedeng pumunta ang mga opisyal ng gobyerno natin. I'm referring to Taiwan because of our One China policy. Paano po niyo inihahanda ang maaaring biglaan din ng pag-uwi? Kasi yung gulo sa Middle East, sabi nga ng mga international expert on geopolitics, hindi naman peer level yung gera. Ang problema sa pag daw nagbanggaan ng Taiwan at China ay parang pelikula, Fast and Furious. So paano po naghahanda ang DMW o ang gobyerno sa repatriation ng almost 300,000 Filipinos? Malamang sa level po ninyo, hindi kayo pwedeng magtungo ng Taiwan magkakaroon ng diplomatic scandal pagka kayo nagpunta. Paano po ginagawa yun?
Meron po tayong 3 opisina sa Taiwan. We have a migrant workers office in Taipei, we have a migrant workers office in Kaohsiung, and a migrant workers office in Taichung. So it's Taipei, Kaohsiung, and Taichung. They are all represented by a labor attaché, welfare officer, and our administrative staff. So meron po tayong opisina na nangangalaga sa ating mga Filipinos overseas. Kung inyo pong natatandaan, nagkaroon po ng earthquake. Opo, so yung nagkaroon ng earthquake sa Hualien County, andun po ang ating MWO Taipei sa pangunguna ng ating labor attaché. Of course, kasama din po ang chairman din ng MECO, si Chairman Silvestre Bello. At yan naman po ay nagtutulungan po tayo para mabigyan ng kalunasan at mabigyan ng assistance yung ating mga naapektuhang Pilipino sa earthquake. So, binigay pong mga, one would be financial assistance again dahil yung iba po ay nawala ng gamit, na nasama yung gamit nila sa earthquake. Yung iba po ay were injured. Hindi naman po major injuries, but some of them were injured at yung iba naman po ay hindi makapagtrabaho dahil na halimbawa po naipit yung daliri and the like. So, nabigyan naman po natin yan ng assistance.
Ibig say na yung mga Pilipino sa Taiwan, mas madaling ma-evacuate. Una, mas malapit. Pangalawa, lahat sila interconnected through cellphone at sila daw ay yung pinakang-organized na mga Pilipino OFW group.
Sa lahat naman po ng bansa, lagi nating iisipin, sana ma-evacuate natin agad yung ating mga kababayan. So, kung yun po yung pananaw na mas mabilis silang ma-evacuate, ay maraming salamat po. Opo.
Nung mag-appear si MECO Chairman Silvestre Bello, parang he dismissed all fears about a possible eruption ng conflict sa Taiwan. Sinasabi niya na may kahit sa mga public area, mayroong mga bunkers na kayang i-accommodate yung the entire population. So, do you share the same thinking na there's nothing to worry about at this point?
Siguro po, maganda lang na lagi tayong handa. We should always be alert on situations. And if yun pong bansa ay merong existing intervention like may mga bunkers, may mga available shelters, maganda po yan. Like in some areas po, like in Korea, meron pong pag may mga alert or may mga sirens, yan po ay alam na po ng mga residente, hindi lamang po ng Pilipino, alam na po nila kung ano yung sirena na yon or kung ano yung signal na yon. And then alam din po ng mga residente kung saan yung mga shelters or yung mga hindi po shelter, kundi saan po yung mga basement areas or areas wherein in certain jurisdictions saan sila tatakbo sa kanilang distrito. Meron po yung talaga na po yan kung saan, kung ikaw halimbawa ay nasa ganitong lugar, kunyari po nasa Itaewon area, alam mo kung saan yung pinakamalapit na tatakbuhan mo or magtatago ka kung sakaling may mangyari. 6 na taon po ako sa Korea, so yung terrain po, malalaman po namin yan. So, very much oriented po ang ating mga residente. Hindi ko lang po sinasabing mga Pilipino, kundi the entire population is already very much aware or oriented. At yan po ay na-imbibe, acclimatize po ang ating mga Filipinos sa Korea kung ano yung mga alert, yung mga sirens, pag ganitong sirena yung tumunog, ano yung gagawin, nasaan ang mga basement areas or mga shelters wherein you can run should there be anything that would occur.
May nag-text na media, nahiya ito magtanong. Kayo daw po yung OIC, bakit daw po?
Tama ba yung designation niyo, ma'am?
Apo, I'm officer in charge under Secretary of the Foreign Employment and Welfare Services. Di po na-confirm na po si Secretary Kakdak, so na-vacate na po yung item niya. So I'm holding it in an officer in charge capacity.
Sige po, kasi gusto kong i-douse yung makapagmulan ng rumor, ma'am eh. Kasi ang pagkakaintindi, OIC kayo ng
Ay, hindi po. Officer in charge of the Foreign Employment and Welfare Services. It's one of the clusters of the Department of Migrant Workers. And part of that po is I have supervision over all the migrant workers offices overseas. So currently we have 39 migrant workers offices. Magiging 41 na po. 39, 40, 41. Because we have opened already Budapest in Hungary, yesterday, and by September 30, we're opening Vienna, Austria.
Sige ma'am, may tanong din. Among OFWs, o sa mga bansang may Pilipino, ano po ba daw ngayon ang pinakamalaki pa rin ng remittances? Saan bansa nagmumula ang pinakamalaking cumulative napadala ng mga Pinoy?
Kung sa OFWs po, I would like to believe nanggagaling pa rin po sa areas sa Middle East. Kung saan po tayo maraming Filipino, dun po nanggagaling ang mas malaking remittances. The number of population would equate to the number of remittance. May data po sa Bangko Sentral. My apologies, I don't have the data with me now.
Kasi parang, lumabas po yata, parang US. Kasi isang nurse daw, ang remittance ng isang nurse ay
okay
katumbas
po.
ng 15. Or even
Okay.
20 na Pinoy na nasa Saudi.
So if that is the case, sir, I stand corrected, but I equate it also on the number of Filipinos. Depende po rin siguro dun sa sweldo. So kung malaki po ang sweldo dun sa isang bansa at halos lahat sa Filipinos in that area would remit to their families. Lumalabas din po kuminsan na yung sa US malaking remittances kasi po may dumadaan po kasi sa US yung parang there's a correspondence na dumadaan po yan sa US. So parang lumalabas po na malaki ang remittances. But ang sa akin naman po, kahit saang bansa, kung as long as nagre-remit yung ating mga kababayan sa kanilang pamilya at hindi nila nalilimutan na sila ay may pamilya sa Pilipinas, maganda po yung because the value of the family as still as a basic unit of society, hindi po nakakalimutan ang pagmamahal sa pamilya. At bakit ka ba nagtungo sa ibang bansa? Upang ipagpatuloy mo ang iyong trabaho sa ibang bansa, subalit hindi mo nalilimutan ang iyong obligasyon sa iyong mga minamahal sa buhay sa Pilipinas.
Oh, baka wala po tayong pinapatama ang gold medalist dyan, ha? Uy, joke lang.
Para lang po sa OFW. Oo, kasama po yun sa aming value formation for Filipino workers. You have your obligation to your family. You have your obligation to the Philippines, your country. You have your obligation to the host country. Paggalang sa batas ng bansang sila ay naroroon or sila ay nagtatrabaho. At of course, your obligation to God or kung ano po yung pinaniniwalaan. Yan po yung ating 4 tenets for Filipino workers. Huwag kalilimutan po yung mga obligasyon.
So sana itanong si Subsec Pangdatun. You cited yung big drop in the poverty rate sa bar as a whole. Apart from investment, foreign ba or local? Mix. Where would you, what would you consider the most important factor sa pag-drop ng poverty rate?
Yung pong significant na pag-drop po ng poverty rate, it's a multi-factor po yung reason behind it. A substantial part of it is, for one, under the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, ang isa pong driving force of employment still is the government. So yung, for example, pagkaroon ho ng maraming mga plantilla items, pagkaroon ho ng maraming mga opportunities for livelihood sa result of the establishment of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, that's one factor. Say for example, yung sa Sulu pa lang ho na nabanggit ko kanina, we're already looking at 5,700 currently ipinapasahuran po ng Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Substantial part of it is also about the various programs and activities na ginagawa ng Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. For example, meron po kaming libreng pabahay for especially yung po mga nasa below poverty line, ang target po natin dyan. So far, nakapag-turnover na po kami ng at least 2,000 na housing units. Liban ho dyan, meron po tayong malawak na medical assistance program kung saan lahat po ng government hospitals in the barn ay essentially partner hospitals na ho natin. At dahil ho dito sa ganito pong efforts, majority of our patients ho ay umuwi ho wala pong binabayaran ni piso. So we also see it as an investment po kasi in fact 74 or 75% of our admitted patients ay wala pong nababayaran ni piso. Tingin ho natin, this is also a form of investment dahil ho, yung pong oras na igugugol ho sana nila para ho maghanap ng pambayad ay minsan nagre-resulta ho sa pagsasanla ng mga bagay, pagbebenta ng lupa, pagbebenta ng ari-ariaw. ay through our comprehensive medical assistance programs, nakakat na ho natin yun. So agad-agad ho silang nakakabalik dun sa mas productive na activities in our society. Kung yan man po ay pagsasaka, kung yan man po ay pagkukumpuni ng mga motorsiklo, ng ano pa pong mga industriya, ay dun ho ay sa tingin natin ay nagiging investment yung pagbibigay ng medical assistance program. Malawak din ho yung ating pong programa on agriculture, fisheries, and agrarian reform. In fact, the BARM remains to be the #1 top fish producing region in the Philippines. Pangatlo ho tayo sa corn at sa iba pa pong mga very important na mga agricultural products. Naging significant na rin ho yung contributions ng Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. So ilan lamang ho ito sa tingin nating mga factors kung saan nagtulong-tulong ho tayo, the whole of the government approach, na ipababa yung poverty incidence dito ho sa Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao.
Educate my innocence. Yung pong BARMM, since may block grant, hindi na po kayo kasama doon sa IRA.
Yung pong Internal Revenue Allotment, or nowadays is called NTA,
Yes.
yung pong ating mga local government units, they continue to enjoy that. So direkta ho yun, hindi na ho yun binabawas sa block grant, at hindi na rin ho yun ay dumadaan pa sa Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Yung block grant ho natin, which is 5% of the net revenue income, also of the collection from the customs, automatic po yung appropriation ho niyan sa Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Ang nangyayari ho is that yung block grant ay ina-approve po ng parliament namin yung pong allocation niya to the different ministries and offices. So kagaya ho sa national government, we do our budget hearing, we do our budget proposals, at eventually ginagawa ho yung batas ng aming parliament na maging ready ho for the following fiscal year. So kasalukuyan yan na rin ho yung ginagawa ho natin. Yung pong kanina ho pala, mukhang hindi ko po nasagot directly, yung pagkawala ho ng SULU ay hindi ho siya automatically makaka-apekto sa block grant. Dahil ho yung block grant natin, yung formulation ho niyan is not contingent on the population, is not contingent on the land area. Pero ho, under the Bangsamoro Organic Law, the block grant is ought to be reviewed by the national government and the Bangsamoro government every 5 years. So titingnan ho doon kung yan ba ay akma pa, kung yan ba ay kailangan bang i-update yung formula o may kailangan po bang adjustments na gagawin. So I would surmise that in the review, yung pong naging Supreme Court decision would be one of the discussions kapag ho nagkaroon na ho tayo ng review, which will happen ho next year after the election.
So, inyo po yung gustong patungan ng kasunod kong tanong. Since as of now, hindi kasama ang SULU, kahit hindi pa final yung ruling at kino-contest pa, hindi kasama sa BRMM, sabi sabihin hindi sila pwedeng bigyan technically ng parte dun sa block grant.
Opo, to be strict about it, kasi immediately, although hindi pa po final, no, yung pong dahil we are still intending to file for a motion for reconsideration, and even yung iba pong party to the cases would file a motion for reconsideration on or before October 1. Still lingering to that hope na pwede pa pong reconsider. But as it stands, for the 2025 budget execution ho ng BARM, alinsunod na rin ho doon sa naging statement ng ating pong Department of Budget and Management. For 2025 ay hindi na po makakapag-implement ng ministries, yung mga ministries programs natin ho, directly or originally intended for SULU. However, under po sa Bangsamoro Organic Law, we are given the legal basis to still provide assistance to Bangsamoro communities that are outside of the formal territories of BARM. So, on using that lens, to some extent, pwede pa rin ho tayo magbigay ng assistance to the people of SULU despite of the Supreme Court ruling. Pero these are night and day in comparison dun sa, kumbaga, they are formally part of the Bangsamoro government and the Bangsamoro territory because they are entitled to an equitable share in the programming of the ministries. Yung pong outside sila, forms of assistance, mga ayuda, Iba pa pong mga quote-unquote soft programs lamang po yung pwede natin gawin.
So from being a shareholder, assistance na lang ang pwedeng ibigay sa kanila. Ilang porsyento po, talking about equitable, ilang porsyento ng BARMM ang sulu, population-wise?
Population-wise, they are about, siguro po, lumaki ho yung population nila. Ang registered voters, for example, is around 500,000 na ho in Sulu. Liban ho dyan, yung pong, based on our 2024 budget, ang pasahod, ang capital outlay, ang MOE intended for the province of Sulu based on the programs of the ministries and offices of the ARMM, we're looking at a figure of at least 9 billion. So, for 2025, baka ho sana mas malaki pa ho yun based on the proposal. But yun nga lang, unfortunately, because of the Supreme Court decision, we need to revisit and we need to recalibrate how do we intend to provide assistance to our brothers and sisters in Sulu.
So sa accounting point of view, 9 billion less ang Sulu and 9 billion more sa naiwan sa BRMM.
In theory, that would be one of the logical na ika nga po ay consideration or decision point in the case of the BARM, that yung what we intended to implement for Sulu could now be reappropriated to the other areas in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim.
Although bumaba yung poverty rate to 23.2%, that is still high, no? At compared to the national average na 16 yata ngayon. Do you think it's possible to reduce yung poverty rate to single digits sa BARM by 2028?
Yung pag-reduce ho ng poverty incidence into single digit, we're optimistic na kaya ho nating mabot po yun. In fact, nung una pong nilabas yung reduction ng poverty incidence, nung una, kami ho mismo halos di makapaniwala kasi from 53%, 54 to 33.5%. So, tinanong ho namin yung PSA if the data would stand. So, apparently, it will. So, kaya ho kami ay, to our pleasant surprise, na ika nga, confidence building measure ho siya on our part, that it's a testament to the effectiveness and responsiveness of our approach in dealing with poverty in the BARM. Looking forward to 2028, ang target ho is on the national level is that we can get down to single digit. No? We are hopeful na kaya ho nating makapag-contribute doon ang Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. At doon hindi ho papasok yung importance of the first parliamentary elections next year. Kasi sa tingin ho namin, malaking factor to sustaining our efforts is yung pagkakaroon ho ng first ever parliamentary elections in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao.
Mr. Pandato, it is unusual to have a BARM without Sulu. No? Hindi lang unusual, unnatural. Aside from filing the motion for reconsideration, what will be the process for Sulu to rejoin BARM?
Apart from the legal option now to file for motion for reconsideration, and hopefully despite of the unanimous decision of the Supreme Court, we're still exploring that option. Ang isa pong option naman, as mentioned by Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri in one of our conversations nung Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, the people of Sulu can also look into the option of filing for an amendment to the Bangsamoro Organic Law that would in effect allow them to return to the BARMM. Isa po yun dun sa nabanggit na option for the lack of better term, re-entry perhaps in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao.
Hindi ko ba parang pinaboto yung tao, ayaw nilang sumama, resulta ng botohan. Pagkatapos parang may sneak na gagawa ng bagong batas para isama sila dun sa lugar na inayawan nila.
Yun nga po yung isa din hong ay conversation in the region right now. Because in 2018, during the plebiscite campaign, the premise of the campaign period was different. Because back then, I was part of the Bangsamoro Transition Commission. Isa ho kami dun sa nagka-campaign for the participation of our kababayan in BARM. In various fora, ang lagi lang ho namin nababanggit is that ARM will vote as one. And that, for example, if the people of Sulu or other province at that will vote for no, ang titignan pa rin ho ang totality ng votes for the ARMM. So yung pong opting out was never discussed during that time. At yun din po yung nakalagay sa Bangsamoro Organic Law. In fact, ang isa pa pong naging discussion, I can remember vividly in the Senate, for example, is that they don't want to have a scenario na magkakaroon ho ng hanging ng mga local government units. Kaya, for example, yung ARM, if they voted for no during that time, ang magiging epekto ho nun is that the BA Bangsamoro Organic Law will not be ratified. At balik po tayo dun sa status quo of the then ARMM. So, iba ho yung konteksto, iba ho yung premise of the campaign in 2018, at marami na rin ho nangyari, and the context is very different na ho nowadays.
So, pwede magkaroon ng another plebiscite?
That could be an option, but given the time, kasi ang ano ho natin ngayon, for example, is do we have the time to have it done before the parliamentary elections next year? Medyo kulang na ho tayo sa oras, for sure. Kaya ho siguro ang isang option ngayon, which has already been also shared by our COMELEC as discussed by COMELEC Chair in one of his public statements, is that we will push through with the election with the 7 parliamentary districts in Sulu. Hindi ho mapifill up. So, in effect, yung 80-member parliament ay magiging 73-member parliament na ho. From the looks of it, kung we will continue as it is, and we will be able to conduct the election next year ho.
Kapsek, ayoko naman kumalkan ng old wound, ano? Hindi kaya ayaw ng Sulu, kasi tinitingnan ko yung mga statement ng mga local government officials ng Sulu. Hindi kaya may paniniwala pa sila na I will be as indirect as possible. ARMM is Sulu, BARMM is Maguindanao. ARMM, the old ARMM is MN, BARMM is MI. MIL po ang tinutugot MNL.
In the BARMM ho ngayon, especially yung current composition ng Bangsamoro Transition Authority, and we give credit to the current administration. For the first time ho, meron pong representatives from the MNLF na Muslimin Sema faction, meron pong members of the parliament that are coming from the MNLF Nur Miswari faction. In fact, isa po sa anak ni Chairman Nur Miswari is currently acting as the deputy speaker or one of the deputy speakers in the parliament. And on the other hand, you have the representatives, members of the parliament from the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. So when it comes to that, pwede ho nating sabihin that yung pong BARM is actually mas inclusive. Yung current composition ho ng parliament ay all fronts are represented. So yun po yung gusto din ho nating ma-preserve. That's why following the directive of Chief Minister Ahod Alhaj Murad Ibrahim, that we continue to explore all options available to us to make sure that we continue to preserve po ano po yung nakalagay sa peace agreements, both from the Tripoli Final Peace Agreement at saka po yung Comprehensive Agreement on the Pacific.
Kasi para pong kagaya ng tanong ni Philip doon, ridiculous eh. Imagine, yung isang probinsya, Sulu, gustong maging autonomous from autonomous region.
Na sa ngayon po ay medyo mabigat yung implication. So kasi for now, if the decision will stand, ang next question is ang region ho sila ilalagay.
Yes.
And based on proximity, the closest would be Region 9. However, isang difference ng local government units in the BARMM as opposed to the other local government units in the country. For example, health in the BARM. Ang health po ay directly under the regional government. So yung pasahod sa mga doktor, pasahod po sa mga nurses, yung delivery ng services, Ministry of Health po natin ang nangunguna dyan. Ayan po yung previously ay ang arrangement in the province of Sulu. Now if you put them in Region 9 ho, devolved sa local government units. So we are now in a situation in which we also have to ask kung ready ho ba yung ating pong local government units to handle 13 hospitals in Sulu, to also continue yung pag-upgrade po ng mga hospitals in that province. So ilan lamang po yan dun sa mga implication of the situation at hand.
Opo, paano po yung Sharia law na ipinatutupad sa BIRMM now that Sulu is, as of now, is not part of BIRMM?
Yung pong Sharia, we still have the National Commission, we still have the PD 1083 kung saan yung other areas na not necessarily or not within the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region Muslim Mindanao, meron pa rin pa naman pong Sharia law na that will govern them. Mas malakas nga lang po or mas improve in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region Muslim Mindanao because we also cover yung pong commercial law or commercial aspect of the Sharia law. In the national level ay hindi pa po tayo nandoon. But there has been a effort of the Supreme Court na palakasin pa ho lalo yung yung Sharia in the Philippines. Nagdagdagan na ho ng mga district courts, nagdagdag na rin po ng circuit courts ang ating pong Supreme Court in other areas of the Philippines kung saan meron pong significant Muslim population.
Isa pa po, sa BIRMM, walang agrarian reform law. Pero hindi kagaya ng agrarian reform law sa labas ng BIRMM.
Halos the same din po.
Kaya lang mas pinapayagan ng malaking lupa.
Same din po.
Ano ngayon mangyayari doon sa mga lupain sa Sulu? Sino may-ari?
That would be one of the discussions between the Intergovernmental Relations Body. So we are scheduled to meet na ho on October 10, yung Intergovernmental Relations Body, kung saan ito po yung nagiging mekanismo ng Bangsamoro government and the national government to discuss ito po mga ganitong issue. And there's a special meeting intended kung saan yung issue lamang po ng Sulu yung pag-uusapan namin on October 10.
So maraming lupa doon mapupunta sa jurisdiction ng NCIP.
That's one of the possible scenarios.
Mr. Pendaton, Muslim Mindanao as a concept is in the Constitution. It's a constitutional provision. What exactly are your thoughts? It's an evolving concept. It has gone after 30 years, it continues to evolve. What exactly are your thoughts about that concept?
Yung Muslim Mindanao and perhaps also the Bangsamoro, it is a product really of decades of parang nation building at the level of the region. Marami hong naging sakripisyo for us to have what we have right now, even the then ARMM. At in that process, very important po yung Sulu, not only as Sulu and its people, but yung pong very significant events na nangyari ho in that province. In fact, ang gaya ho na nabanggit ni Chief Minister, Barm will never be the same without Sulu and its people. Ang sa amin naman ho, pag sinabi ho kasing Bangsamoro, you're essentially talking about three things. Bangsamoro or Barm as a territory, Bangsamoro as a government, and then you have Bangsamoro as a people. So yung Supreme Court decision, it removes Sulu from the Bangsamoro as a territory. It removes Sulu as a Bangsamoro in the formal government, but it will never take away Sulu in the Bangsamoro as a consciousness, as a narrative.
Well, it appears that the judicial decision takes prominence over the political issues. That's the way I understand it.
Well, one of the comments of our officials in the Deputy Speaker, for example, who is from Sulu, to borrow his words, it was very theoretical. But of course, we have high respects for the Supreme Court sila ho yung the legal luminaries and the final arbiter of legal issues here in our country. But that was an observation made by one of our officials in the Bangsamoro Parliament, who hails from Sulu.
So ang Sulu ngayon nag-iisang lalawigan sa bansa na walang rehiyon na kinabibilangan.
As it stands, mukhang ganun ho. But hopefully, this will be addressed as soon as possible dahil ayaw naman ho natin na ikaw nga ay there will be a disruption of government services because of the very complex situation that we have right now.
May tanong po.
Gaston. Okay.
Kay Yusik Feli po. Ma'am, may update po kayo dun sa 6 na Pilipinong marino sa Turkey na pinalaya after makulong for drug trafficking charges?
Yeah. Okay. Sa kasalukuyan po wala tayong office sa Turkey, but I think it's the DFA who is currently in charge of that. And kung sila naman po ay na-repatriate na, the DMW will be there to provide them assistance kung ano po yung kailangan nilang assistance.
Thank you, ma'am. Kay spokesperson po. Sir, merong social media post calling on the BARM leadership, among others, para to take action sa alleged disrespect sa Muslim tradition and culture dahil may mga nagbebenta raw ng pork pastil. Nakarating na po ba ito sa inyo and may ano pong action taken ito?
Actually, this was an issue last year at nagre-recur nga ho no, in the past couple of days. Yung pastil ho kasi is very important culturally and historically sa Bangsamoro, specifically for the Maguindanaoans. For those who don't know it, yun po yung rice tapos meron pong chicken na we call it kagikit. Pag sinabi hong pastil, ibig sabihin ho nun, nakabalot po sa dahon ng saging, nandun po yung kanin at nandun po yung meat. Kapag ho yung meat lang, kakikit lang ho yung tawag doon. So it's not pastil unless it's packaged as that. Recently ho, on one hand, we're happy because it's becoming a mainstream in other parts of the country. Yung cultural appropriation lang siguro yung medyo ko dapat nating tignan dahil bilang innate in Muslim Mindanao culture, medyo culturally insensitive ho kapag yung ginawa ho nating meat dun sa pastil ay pork. Yun lang ho yung ika nga ay nagiging discussion now, and those who are sabihin na nating purists in this sense, in this discussion, ay we call foul dun sa pagkakaroon nga ho ng pork pastil. Sa tingin ho natin that's culturally insensitive. But yung pong pag-mainstream, no, it's becoming a norm now in our streets in Metro Manila. Doon aspeto kami ho'y nagagalak. Meron pa nga mga innovations na may mga Cajun pastil, meron pa ano. Okay lang ho yun. Pero yung ho siguro doon sa pagkakaroon ng pork pastil, even on a personal level, I cry foul. Isa pa hong napansin ko rin, even yung pagkakaroon ng kebab. In the airport, I was looking for kung di man halal at the very least, ika nga, Muslim-friendly na meal. So, hindi ko na sabihin kung anong stall ho yun. Nung nakita ko sa malayo na kebab, natuwa ako kasi at least it's something that I could eat. But nagulat ako nung sa menu, nakalagay his pork kebab. So, ako na hindi nga ho from the Middle East, I feel insulted. So, mas lalo na ho dun sa patungkol ho dun sa pork pastil. But I think it's good that we can have this as a conversation, no? It's a venue for us to explain also kung ano po ba yung ika nga mas appropriate or mas sensitive na approach in mainstreaming the food, the tradition, the culture from the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao.
May gusto po ba kayong sabihin doon sa mga nagbebenta ng pork pastil?
Pwede ho siguro nilang i-continue pero wag na lang ho sigurong tawaging pastil. It could be something else, parang siguro for all intents and purposes, the closest would be parang binalot eh. Binalot, diba? So pwedeng pork binalot or any other, but siguro for cultural sensitivity, iwasan na lang ho siguro yung paggamit ng pork pastil.
Sa
May
post din,
tanong po ako dun.
meron ding sinabi rin sa post, may claim na there is an exploitation of halal certification system, that there are products being labeled as halal but they are actually not. May ganun po ba kayong namamonitor?
Meron pong unfortunately in some aspects very loosely yung paggamit ng halal. Hindi, it's not automatic na porket ho hindi pork ay halal na ho yun. When we say halal, it means permissible, allowed. Yung pong, at hindi po lahat ng meat ay halal, no? There are certain meat lamang po na permissible under the Islamic tradition or under Islamic faith. At meron pa pong process na dapat pong sinusunod. So for example, yung pong chicken, hindi po yan automatically halal. Dapat ho yung pag-slaughter, yung pong pagkatay ho dyan ay may patakaran hong sinusunod. At yung processing ay dapat ho hindi ho yan expose into non-halal meat such as pork. So if you're going to be strict about it, medyo marami hong dapat sundin for us to say or for us to certify na isang product po ay halal. Yun lamang po, you also observe that in other situations, parang loosely ho itong nagagamit. And sayang ho dahil malaking industry yung halal, especially in Muslim countries. We're talking about billion-dollar industries. No? At isa rin ho dun sa area of focus natin sa BARM na gusto ho nating palakasin to be halal producing meat, no, na pwede ho nating i-export sa ating pong neighboring countries, specifically in the Bimpiaga.
Kapsek, may politics isa BRMM. Doon daw sa desisyon na excluded na ang Sulu, nawalan daw si chairman ng kalaban in the person of Governor Sakurtan kasi hindi na pwedeng lumaban yung potential rival na si Sakurtan sa BIRMM.
Yung pong si Gov Sak ho kasi ay nominated by a coalition that intended to participate in the first parliamentary election. So yung Bangsamoro Grand Coalition, one of the parties, no, or coalition for that matter, na nag-express na unang intent to participate in the elections. Sa kanila naman ho ay they can always nominate kung sino po yung pwedeng you're going to field for the first parliamentary elections. At dahil din ho sa Supreme Court decision on Sulu, in-extend na ho ng COMELEC yung deadline for the certificate of candidacy filing in the BARM. November 4 to 9 na ho yung COC filing for the parliamentary elections in the BARM. Linawin ko lamang po, that's only for the parliamentary elections. So for the national local elections in the BARM, meaning governor ho pababa, ay October pa rin ho yung deadline nila. At yung pong pagiging chief minister kasi, nangyayari lamang ho yan after the members of the parliament elect among themselves kung sino po yung magiging chief minister. So at this point, actually, medyo premature to say kung sino po yung magiging chief minister dahil ho, mag-e-elect pa ho tayo ng parliament. We will come up, ideally, 80-member parliament, and from them ho, sila ho yung pipili kung sino po yung magiging chief minister.
Wala nang tanong at mga kasama sa media.
Sige, nakaroon din yata ng event dito sa kabila. So, we'd like to thank our guests for today. Si Yusek Treli Bay ng Department of Migrant Workers for giving us a comprehensive view of what the government is doing for OFW, lalo na sa Lebanon. And we'd also like to thank BARM Capsec Asmin Pendato para sa kanyang presentation today na malinaw na government is exerting all efforts to make the forthcoming political exercise the first of its kind in the region for decades now, no? Since the start of armed conflict in 1970. Considering that this is also National Peace Consciousness Month, no? Okay, so we'd like to thank everyone for coming over and we'll see you next Saturday.